Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm building a mind map. I'm following 13Fs and import filings, and I'm connecting the dots between these money market funds, ETFs, and GameStop, and AMC too, if applicable. Now, what I've done so far is I look in Fidelity. Now, this is Fidelity's Securities Lending Fund, right? This is right here. I'm sorry, not the right one. This has the lending fund in it, because they all do, right? Yeah, okay, lending cash. Okay, so this is it right here. So this is the main, this is one of the starting points, right? I'm starting from two nodes. So it's going to be Fidelity Securities Lending Cash Central Fund, as well as Fidelity's Cash Central Fund. Two large players in the repo market. So once you look into Fidelity Securities Lending Cash Central Fund, look at this shit. Look at the dates on here. So this is as of 9/24. Look what they're holding. It's only these funds. Money market funds within money market funds. Within index funds, mutual funds, you name it. It's all Fidelity. It's one gigantic connected ecosystem or collateral chain like we've been discussing. Now, since then, they've only dumped these two right here, which I believe if you check GameStop's 13F, FMAG X, let's see if they dumped it from here. No FMAG X and FMKFX. Neither one. Interesting. Okay, so you'll notice that once I type Fidelity here and Control F on GME's 13F page, you can see that we have like Flap X, we have, FZip X. Well, if we go back to this, Flap X, look, it's there. We go to FZip X, it's there, right? So then we click here and we can see that now we get into some large caps, we get into some stocks and securities, right? Well, they happen to have GameStop in here too. Okay, and that's how you follow this chain. This is how I make the mind map. This is my thought process. Now, once we find GameStop, then I scroll down further in this fund, or I search for other Fidelity funds within this fund, and sure enough, we find these two, the ones I'm talking about here, side by side. Now, that's probably because they're alphabetized, but still, they're both in the same underlying fund, FZipX, with GameStop, right? So they're in here with GameStop. You click on any one of these. We've already been to the securities lending. Let's go to the Cash Central Fund now. So clearly, it's the same setup. All funds of funds within funds within funds within funds within funds. Because the theory is, obviously, the most assets are being held, the most collateral is being held by Fidelity. So everyone's going to be using Fidelity. So literally, I counted. There's 16 funds you can find with GameStop as far as Fidelity's funds here. And 2 of them have sold out. 3, 4, 5 of them have sold out. No, I'm sorry. 1, 2. Looks like 2 have dumped their positions, right? And then the rest you're going to find here. So now that you know my thought process, let's look at the mind map and let me show you. So these are all of the funds with GameStop. I've put each individual share amount here. They've all reported an individual amount of shares. So these are all inside of the Fidelity Securities Cash Lending Fund, and they're all also inside of the Fidelity Cash Central Fund. Now, the significance of this is that these 2 big players right here pass through the Fed Reserve. They, on a daily basis, interact with the Fed Reserve. So we know that they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, basically 12 funds within their fund, their cash fund, and their central securities lending fund that are both exposed to the Fed Reserve. And we know this because we can go to the Office of Financial Research, financialresearch.gov. We can go to investments in the repo market with the Federal Reserve. And Fidelity, of course, is one of the bigger players, the biggest player. Now we can drill down on the individual fund names and look at the top two funds, Fidelity's Cash Central Fund and Fidelity's Securities Lending Cash Central Fund. The Cash Central Fund takes up 18.9% of the total as far as August 31st. The Securities Lending Cash Central Fund takes up 9.68% of the total. So big players here. The next biggest one is going to be Fidelity's Government Cash Reserves. And then I believe the biggest one is the Government Money Market Fund, which happens to be, you guessed it, SPACs, the one that we're all holding in our cash retail accounts. So what does this all tell us? It tells us that our shares are not being lent to any institutions for shorting. They can't. Because if you do a simple search for SPACs right here on Fintel, and you go to the institutional ownership, guess what? There is none. Zero ownership. That's why they have to use the repo, because they can't lend. So they have all this cash just sitting there. So they're going to park it overnight and earn some interest on it. That's why the demand skyrocketed when the interest rate rose just to 0.05. And then all of a sudden we have Fidelity become an agent lender on April 26th, like during the first real big push up towards demand in the repo. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, this is the mind map here. And I'm going to expand on this. This is just the beginning, but this. So once all this is drawn in here, guess what? They're lending, all kinds of shit. They have shares galore. Like, let's go back to this. Let's pick any of these. I mean, they have tons of shit. I mean, they picked up stuff like no other. So they're actually using this cash they have and they're reinvesting it in securities. I mean, this is all on 531. It's insane. So, I mean, wouldn't you feel safe here? I do. Because all this stuff's interconnected. You know what's not in this system? You could probably guess. This is its own ecosystem. BlackRock has its own design just like this. Vanguard has its own design just like this. And they're all going through the Fed Reserve because they have to. So just keep this in mind. Hopefully this all made sense. I mean, I tried to explain it pretty good, I think. We'll see. But in essence, Fidelity's fine. They're the largest player in the repo because they have to be. And yes, historically they have been a large player in the repo in the past, but there has been times where they weren't. So they haven't always been the biggest player. But as of right now, they were already big. And imagine getting 1.7 million new accounts, which is exactly what happened in February. So the shares are scarce and they have them all sitting in cash accounts that can't be touched. So what do? You have to create a vehicle to constantly create and redeem shares. Wouldn't you know? So who do you go to? How do you escape regulation? The Federal Reserve. Gary Gensler can't get into the Fed Reserve. He knows this. The rules don't matter if you go to the Fed Reserve, right, Morgan? But anyways, hopefully this made sense. This looks like a biker gang tattoo. Oh boy. Anyways, very good. You have a good one.